This video is going to serve as an introduction to NVivo. I'm going to show you how to open the program, and I'm going to show you how to basically navigate through a very simple project. To start off with, if you're on Windows 10, you'll be able to find NVivo by going to your Start menu, and if you scroll down, you'll find it under Q for QSR. This is QSR as they are the company that make NVivo. As soon as I click on the icon, it's going to open up NVivo 11 for us, and we're going to be able to start editing, creating, and managing our research. You'll see when you open up NVivo, you have a list of your recent projects down the left hand side available here. This is always going to show you the latest files that you've used, and is a really quick way for you to jump into a project that you've been recently using. At the top here, you'll see you've got the option to create a blank project or a sample project. I'll talk through both of those options in a minute. And then down here, you've got the Learn and Connect area. This is going to show you all of the latest videos from QSR and all of the latest help and advice on their blogs. To keep yourself up to date, you can also follow them on social media using one of the links down here. When you're creating your own project for your own research, you're going to want to start with a blank project here. Unlike a lot of other programs, NVivo requires you to create a file before you can start editing it. So you need to save first, then you can start adding things to your project. If I click on blank project, it's going to come up and ask me for a title. So I'm going to call this research interviews, for example. And then it's going to ask me where I want to save that. So in this case, I can browse and I can choose where to save it. If I'm on campus, I might want to save that on my G drive, a Z drive, X drive, T drive, depending on where you're storing your data. In this case, I'm just going to put this on my desktop. And then as soon as I click OK, it's going to create that file for me, and it's going to give me the option to start adding my data. As this is the first time I've opened this project, it's going to open up this Getting Started guide here. You can see this is some very basic advice on how to bring in a document, code some content, view your coding, and run a query. I'm not going to go into any of this in detail because all of those are covered in separate videos, but this window can be a very useful reminder if it's been a while since you've opened the program. For now, we're just going to close it. So for me to be able to introduce you to the NVivo program, it's easy for me to get some data in. So in this case, I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to close the project. And I'm going to open up the sample project. Now, the sample project is an example of real research that was conducted, and it gives you the opportunity to play with a full research project within NVivo. Once again, I can close this window, and I get more of a feel for what the program looks like when it has some data in. To give you some basic orientation, you'll see at the top we have ribbons. These are very similar to the kind of ribbons you'll find in Microsoft Word. If ever I'm referring to a ribbon, I'm talking about one of these tabs across the top. Within the ribbons, you'll find all of the tools within NVivo that enable you to create, add, code, all of the basic functionality. Anything that we do in one of those ribbons, or anything that we add into our project, is stored in one of these folders down here. Now this pane down the left hand side is called Navigation View, and you'll see as I move through the options to the bottom left, the folders within those subheadings load at the top, and as I click on one of those, the documents within that area appears in this area here that we call List View. If I click on one of the things within List View, it opens that up, and that's going to be displayed in Detailed View here. You can alternate Detailed View to the bottom of this area here by going to View and Detailed View, and this lets you choose where to put it. It's quite useful to keep it on the right when you're coding, so I'm going to leave it here. Now I'm going to just briefly go through these folders so you can get a feel for what's stored within each of them. The sources here are your data sources. So in this case, we can see this researcher has interviews, literature reviews, news articles, and they're all stored within this area that's called internals. Internals are your primary source materials. and they're a kind of material that NVivo understands. So if we go to the interviews, for example, we can see we have some text files, we have some video files, and we have some audio files. There's a lot of different formats that NVivo accepts, and if you're working with one of those formats, it is classed as an internal, as it's a kind of file that NVivo can manage, can understand, and can open up. This includes things like Microsoft Word documents, most common audio and video formats. There's a whole range of special plugins to different programs, and most importantly, NVivo accepts PDF files. So even if you're using data that isn't supported by NVivo, you might be able to export it in a PDF format. NVivo does acknowledge, however, that there may be times that you can't fully put the data in there. So for those occurrences, there's this option called externals. So this can refer to any form of data that we can't put into NVivo. One example of this could be an ebook or a physical book. If we had the PDF file, we'd be able to put the PDF file into NVivo. It would be classed as an internal. If it's a physical book or a proprietary ebook, then we wouldn't be able to put it into NVivo. But rather than ignoring the existence of it, we can put it in an external. So you can see here there's some references to literature that this researcher has used down the side here. So that's our externals and our internals covered. Memos are quite literally what you'd expect them to be. They are memos. These can relate to very specific items within a project, or they can be general notes. So you can see here under memos that there is an example of a very specific note here, balanced versus mixed feelings, and that will be linked to those themes. So here we can see the researcher has two very subtly different themes, and here they've written some notes about how to distinguish between them. This is a really good example of good practice that can help you navigate your code book later on. Framework matrices are a very different type of data, and they'll be covered in a later video. Your nodes are your coding, and these are split into three main types. Your nodes are your themes, essentially. So these are your concepts, your ideas, your behaviors, whatever you're coding within your data, they're stored within here. Here we have cases. So cases are your unit of measurement. I'll go into those in more detail in a later video. And relationships enable you to link one thing to another, and they can be later modeled. Classifications are where we start to store metadata for different items. So this here we can, under source classifications for example, include the different kinds of data we've got in the project. Under cases we've got the different units of measurement, and under relationships we've got the different kind of relationships within the project as well. I've really quickly gone through each of these, but that's because they're covered in great detail in later videos. I'm going to leave this one here for now, but hopefully this is enough to get you started with your own project. Remember, whenever in NVivo, make sure you save often. You can see this option's blanked out for me here because I've not actually made any changes to the project.